This is a case study of what you might call a low-key urban renewal project in a section of Algiers. It's also an example of what students can do, perhaps in a professional field. Last summer, the planning authority of Algeria, called Comedor, asked the Chilean architect Fernando Castillo to do some work for them on a renewal of an area of Algiers. The task was to make planning and architectural proposals for an inner suburb of the city known as Cite Mohammed. Fernando Castillo teaches at Cambridge University in England, and he suggested that the work should be carried out by a team of students from the fourth year of Cambridge University School of Architecture. Comedor agreed to this, and for the past 9 months 19 Cambridge students have been working on the job in Algeria and in Cambridge, with the assistance of Fernando Castillo and several other members of the staff. The work for Algiers is the design project of those students for this year. It's also a real job for the Algerian government. Our intention today is to show you some of the products of this work, which is still going on. We want to try to illustrate some of the principles which have been adopted, principles of architecture and local planning which we think are important in Algiers and which might be applied elsewhere in similar situations. We're going to show some examples of planning projects, building projects and ideas about the renewal of Cite Mohammed might be brought about. First, we'll set the scene by describing the city of Algiers and the commune of Cite Mohammed. Algiers is the capital city of Algeria. It's situated on the Mediterranean coast of North Africa in a densely populated strip of fertile land. The remainder of the country is desert, which occupies 70% of the total area and begins about 100 miles south of Algiers, beyond the Atlas Mountains. The population of the country is 16 million, consisting mainly of nomads and peasants. The government is implementing an intensive program of industrialization, thus creating a new social stratum of industrial workers and city dwellers. Algeria's revenue comes mainly from the production of oil and from rich reserves of natural gas. The state also controls most of its food processing, assembles trucks and industrial vehicles, is self-sufficient in fertilizers and other chemicals, and produces clothes, shoes, pig iron, steel and electrical products. Algeria's annual growth rate is one of the highest in Africa. Modern Algeria is a juxtaposition of different cultures, Arab, Turk and more recently French, a situation reflected in the physical form of the city of Algiers. The rapid process of industrialization has generated massive migration into the city. What at one time was the home of one French family is now the home of 4, 6 or even more Algerian families, living in overcrowded and unhealthy conditions and divorced from their traditional patterns of life. Circulation in Algiers has almost been strangled by the overcrowding. There are constant traffic jams which are aggravated by the lack of a proper public transport system. The city of Algiers started at a port near what is now known as the Kasbah and has grown towards the east, following the curve of the bay. At this end of the city, the government is building an administrative and business centre and an adjacent industrial area. This new sector will be linked to the old centre via a motorway and a rapid transit system. The commune of Cite Mohammed, the object of our study, lies between the old and new centres. It is linear in form, squeezed between the port and the hills. On the north side of the commune is a barrier of railway and motorway, and on the south side is a steep hillside. The main access points are at the east and west ends of the commune, and a main street called Rue Belouizdad runs along its length. On the hillsides are narrow, winding roads and steps in poor repair. Housing is of poor quality, with minimal services or none. There are also many squatters in shanty towns. On the flat part of the commune is an almost orthogonal grid of streets in reasonable condition. Housing is generally up to about 8 stories in tenements of French colonial style with normal services in most cases but poorly maintained. Large non-residential areas occupied by old warehouses and some industries conceal the fact that the commune has a density of 500 persons per hectare, the highest in Algeria. Some employment is provided in Cite Mohammed itself, mostly manual work in workshops and small factories. However, unemployment is very high and only about 1 person in 10 has a proper job. Building materials are not abundant, comprising mainly clay bricks and tiles, sand and gravel. Water is scarce and there's a shortage of timber. Cement is imported and traditional construction makes use of simple reinforced concrete structures which withstand earthquakes. A certain amount of an investigation and analysis has been essential to this work. We do not think it is possible for outsiders such as ourselves to completely comprehend the Algerian culture and situation. Therefore, our investigations were not holistic but selective and reflect our thoughts about what was important to learn about. We examined the political and administrative structure of Algiers in order to understand the policies and intentions of the Algerian government. We looked at the social structure of Algiers and its cultural background of Islamic, Turkish, French and Western influences. We examined education, lifestyles, business and industry. We studied economic factors and tried to understand how rich or poor the community is, what spending priorities it has, what resources there are, and what might be the implications of our proposals. We investigated movement, transport, traffic circulation. With the aid of a computer model, we studied the relationship of Cite Mohammed with the rest of Algiers. And we looked at buildings. The French tenements, now very overcrowded. The Kasbah area of Turkish courtyard houses connected by a network of alleyways. The bidonville, or squatter settlements of rural immigrants, and the rural villages in the mountains of Kabylia, from where many of the present population came to Algiers. These studies suggested that our approach to the problems of Cite Mohammed should be guided by the following aims. First, our proposals should have as a starting point the socio-economic structure and cultural patterns of the commune as a whole. They should foster activities which define and identify an identity for the commune. We think that from the complex interaction of overlapping cultures, it is possible to encourage the development of appropriate forms which reflect life in modern Algeria. Secondly, our proposals should indicate strategies for creating a humane city environment within a constantly changing context, rather than merely proposing densities and ratios and population figures. The intention is to determine a set of priorities for a development process, rather than to propose an immediate master plan to create without needing to destroy, not a total plan but a gradual transformation of the environment. Thirdly, our proposals must involve the people of the commune in changing their environment, and not only in the process of building. The buildings themselves should be the starting point of further communal development. All proposals, whether for buildings or planning policies, should aim to foster interaction between the people and involve them in the life of the community. There are a number of principles which we have used to help us towards achieving these aims. These principles derive from our analysis and inform all the design work we have done. First, the principle of fabric. We are trying to create a built environment which is dense and fine-grained, which is like a fabric stretched across the area, incorporating existing and new buildings. This fabric is made of buildings up to 6 stories high, close to each other. The fabric is a continuum of buildings and spaces of different types. It grows and stretches according to need in a continuous process of change. Complementing the fabric are the foci. Foci are special buildings which are unique in Cite Mohammed. They punctuate the fabric, providing visual incident, generating activity and stimulating development. Several foci are proposed, including a mosque, a rapid transit station and a technical college. We have adopted a principle of mixed use. Within the fabric, there are no zones of land use. Different activities, different types of buildings, and different spaces mixed together to integrate all the different aspects of the life of the inhabitants. When a residential project is built, there will always be shops or small workshops on the street front, and within each neighbourhood there will always be some small industry, perhaps a school, a health centre or a sports field. There is a principle of hierarchies of spaces. In Algiers, Casbah, the richness of the environment derives partly from a hierarchy of spaces of different scales and with the different levels of privacy. There are alleyways and public spaces, skifas or entrances to houses, private courtyards, family rooms for entertaining, private rooms, and the roof terraces which are the domain of the women. A similar hierarchy is proposed for Cite Mohammed. The streets lead to neighbourhood courts for up to 50 families. Adjoining these are smaller courts for 8 to 12 families, then private family courts adjoining rooms in which the family lives and entertains. Above are more private rooms, and above these the roof terraces. This hierarchy provides a range of spaces of differing scale and character. Families are grouped together into neighbourhoods and communities. We think that this responds to the Algerian Islamic culture in a modern way. Another principle is concerned with resources and materials. Valuable industrial products such as steel, aluminium and oil have to be used very carefully in Algeria. We have proposed that as far as possible traditional building techniques should be used in Cite Mohammed. The building projects use non-load-bearing brickwork, simple short-span concrete frames and clay tiles. Use of these materials implies a labour-intensive construction process which will alleviate unemployment and conserve energy. Similarly, environmental control in Cite Mohammed is to be achieved by natural and traditional methods. As far as possible, we avoid air conditioning and mechanical equipment. Instead, the forms of the buildings are designed to assist natural ventilation and to moderate the extremes of temperature and the glare of the sun. The last and most important principle is that of participation. Some buildings must be built by the authorities in order to stimulate development. However, in many cases, we wish the building initiative to come from within the community itself, and we intend the population to become involved in the actual process of building. By providing minimal structures and services which can be completed by the inhabitants in their own way and at their own pace, we can involve the community, use the time and skills of the population, and provide much needed local employment. These principles have been applied to the design of some buildings that will serve as examples of our intentions. These projects do not attempt to be an end product. They are interpretations of the principles in the context of Cite Mohammed. The projects that we have chosen to show each have different underlying priorities. They emphasize the physical implications of some of our principles. Housing has been one of our main concerns, particularly the insertion of new buildings into small vacant sites and its interaction with existing buildings. This project illustrates an approach to housing which is adaptable to the average plot in Cite Mohammed. The old buildings are replaced in stages of gradual renewal. At all times, the old and new buildings together form the fabric of the commune. The project illustrates the principles of mixed development, incorporating shops, workshops, and open space into the residential area. This project, also housing, is concerned with the hierarchy of spaces observed in the Kasbah. It examines the relationship between public and private spaces. The intention is to combine the qualities of the Kasbah with those of a modern housing development. An important element is the courtyard that helps to control the climate and provides a focus for a group of families. The residential density is roughly 500 persons per hectare. This next project is an example of housing which is to be built by partial self-help. It is based on a module of structure that is combined to form various different dwelling types. Only structure, basic services and staircases are provided. The rest of the elements, services and finishes are provided by the occupant. The construction system uses local materials and skills and explores the recycling of old materials. This project is located in the main commercial artery at the west end of Cite Mohammed. It is concerned with the provision of office space, absorbing commercial pressures coming from the centre of the city. The design incorporates some ideas for the control of the internal environment, using only the architectural form. There is no mechanical plant. The building induces internal air movements through the spaces by means of its form and the materials which are used. The form of the external envelope controls the penetration of direct sunlight, which provides adequate lighting conditions. This is a technical high school. It interprets our ideas of participation in an educational context. Educational facilities are provided in a manner which permits their use by the whole community. A pedestrian route to the rapid transit station penetrates through the technical college, promoting public interaction with the educational process and activities. At this point, we might be expected to show the conclusion of the work, a master plan for Cite Mohammed, or perhaps the buildings themselves. We're not going to do that. This work has no conclusions. It is intended to initiate a process of renewal in Cite Mohammed, which will be carried on by the inhabitants themselves. It provides examples, but not predetermined solutions, with fixed physical forms. This intention is not a traditional one of architects and planners. We think that in this situation, it is an appropriate, professional and responsible attitude to the complex problems of Algiers. We are not planners, but architects looking at the urban context. Sorry about that. We think that this kind of non-deterministic approach to urban renewal might be applied not only in Algiers, but in other parts of the Third World. The specific forms we have suggested will not always be useful, but the principles may be. Such principles carry implications about the way humane city environments might be created for changing populations with changing conditions and aspirations. They imply the use of strategies based on local patterns of life which use the energies of the population to improve their own situation. Finally, it is important that this is a student project. This work has faced advanced students with a complex urban problem. A methodology of collective work has been developed, and the teacher's role has become that of advisor and guide. There is a wealth of knowledge and energy in students which can generate useful suggestions for improving our environment. Moreover, the involvement of students in the current problems of the community can create a new sense of awareness and purpose among professionals. Thank you very much.